Welcome to Back Alley Chat, the fastest growing addiction recovery podcast in the world. Today is our 30th episode. I feel like we're getting so old so fast. I'm your host, Allie Severino, and I'm thrilled to bring you a very special episode today that I have dubbed Double Dose of Allie, or Allie Squared. Today we are sitting down with my friend, Ally Ruge. She is an inspiring woman in recovery, and with almost a decade of sobriety, Allie's journey is not just a personal triumph, but it's a testament to the power of resilience, transformation, and the unwavering spirit of those in sobriety. Allie's passion and dedication have led her to a career devoted to helping others on their path to recovery. But there is so much more to her incredible work. She's also a dog mom, a passionate surfer, and an avid traveler. So we're going to dive into her story, the challenges she's overcome, and the profound impact she's had in individuals in recovery. And we're also going to explore her life outside of treatment and recovery, and her love for the ocean and seeing the world and all those other things. I can't wait to get her tips if she has like way to travel for cheap. Like I need to know. And with all that being said, we have to thank our sponsor, Quick Intel, who is killing it. They are growing every single day as more and more people realize the importance of safety and security in the crypto space. They are now fully integrated into the Dex Tools website, which averages 14 million monthly users. Quick Intel is bringing their hub of AI, safety, and security tools to the masses, helping people just like you invest like a pro. So download the Quick Intel app on your iOS or Android device today. Hey, Allie.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. I was reading one of your posts of like your surfing post, I think it was, and I was like, bro, I got to get Allie on here, like, because you're like always smiling and like doing these fun things, and I really think like that's kind of what people think of recovery as, right? And it takes a long time to get there, though, so we're going to get into it.
Right. Oh, yeah. My first year was definitely not all smiles and rainbows. It was tough, but it's hard to not be grateful when you pull yourself out of the gutter.
Right.
And you've seen and been enveloped in so much darkness, and then when you finally come into the light, it's amazing, right?
You got to be grateful every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you from?
Tampa, Florida.
Oh, you are
born
from
and
Florida.
raised.
Okay.
Yeah, actually third generation, which is super rare.
Super rare.
Yeah, my dad and grandma are also from Tampa. So yeah, that's
how did you end up in Palm Beach? Was it for rehab?
Treatment, yes. Okay. Fun story. I Googled a turning point of Tampa and got an 800 number, and it ended up being a facility in Port St. Lucie. And I said, I can't go to Port St. Lucie. That's 3 hours away. And, once the money and the drugs ran out, I was willing to do whatever.
All right, I'll go.
So ended up on the East Coast and did a couple year run here as well. And finally hit bottom.
How many times? And you were alcohol, right? Primarily alcohol?
Opiates.
No? Okay.
I mean, started with alcohol, moved to cocaine, moved to opiates. And then someone told me you could get off heroin by smoking crack. So that made total sense to me, I was like,
would you give that advice out today? No, okay. Don't do that.
No, but I always use that analogy. Like, it's so funny. I'm so quick to like take people's advice on the street or like with something like that. And then I come into recovery and they're like, you should go to meetings. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that, So that whole, like, I have to put as much energy into my recovery as I did in my addiction, I kind of use that as an example.
Totally. That's a great example.
Yeah.
Dude, the other day we were talking, there was this newspaper headline and it said, should I be concerned about my recreational heroin use? I was like, how is this a fucking newspaper article? Like, I'm just so confused. So it was kind of like that. Maybe that advice column should have been like, ma'am, you should start using crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And get off the heroin.
Only shoot heroin on the weekends.
Right.
Like a lady.
Right, like
try
lady.
it out. Yeah. So silly.
So you came down here for treatment, and what happened? Did you go into the facility?
Yeah.
Did you stay the whole time?
Yep. I stayed the whole time. And typical kind of story. I brought my using buddy over with me, who I was, hopelessly in love with, and who was also 19 years older than me. And I brought him to treatment with me. And the day we got out, we hit the streets.
How old were you?
22 when I came over to the East Coast, and I got sober at 24.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm one of those. I have 27 treatment stints under my belt.
Wow. 27.
Yeah. And I love talking about that. It's important for me to say that for the people who have relapsed, who have had to go back to treatment, have had to pick up 100 white chips, all those things. You know, I thought I truly was a hopeless case, and there was no way sobriety was possible for someone like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What made a difference for you?
I think,
Like, were you working 12 steps any of the other 27 times?
yeah, I tried. Yeah, absolutely. But my sponsor used to tell me I had a buffet style program, so I'd take what I wanted and left the rest. I wasn't necessarily honest about my cravings or how I was feeling or my lack of self-esteem and self-worth. Like, I didn't talk about those things, which I realize now how important it is for me to be honest about my insecurities and my negative emotions and my negative self-talk. Like, I have to address those things. But yeah, June 11th, 2014, I found myself in a hospital bed with a blood infection and now
From what?
From like dirty needles.
Wow.
Yeah, I had MRSA.
Oh my God.
And abscesses all over my body and not one person by my side. And that 9.5 years later, I still tell that story. I still can remember being there. I can still remember the hopelessness I felt in that moment. And that's when I just fully surrendered. And I said, I'll do whatever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you got out of the hospital? What did that journey look like?
So I was in the hospital for 7 days and a gentleman showed up and he said, are you ready to go to treatment? I said, yep. And
The gentleman just showed up?
Yep. Didn't ask any questions.
Your guardian angel?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
No,
let's
literally
go. Wow.
he was. Yep. His name was Lino. He truly was. I called him a spiritual gangster. He was awesome. He ran the streets in Puerto Rico, vicious crackhead. Yeah. 20 something years clean. And he was my angel that day. And he picked me up and took me to treatment. And I didn't ask where I was going. I didn't ask if there was a chef. I didn't ask if we go horseback riding on the weekends. I just said, whatever, let's go.
Yeah.
And I got there. And I think that, you just talked about this. Like, I was so beaten and exhausted emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, that I just had no more fight left in me. And come to find out, that was the best position to be in.
Right.
Because then I became super willing to do whatever was suggested to me. And, the typical suggestions, 90 meetings in 90 days, get a home group, get a sponsor, work the steps. Like, I did all those things. But I also built, I think what's so important is community, like having that support. I think people get mixed up of like what meetings are about, and meetings are about unity. It's not about, sure we share, but sharing is just people's experience and opinion. That's it. Right. And we'll get so caught up in the drama and the toxicity of some of it. Cause there is, right?
Fashion shows. And especially in early recovery.
Yeah. Who's sleeping with who, right? But the whole point, and I love the phrase, like, the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
So that's the whole point, is for me to connect with other people who are on the same journey as me.
And I noticed you have it looks like you have a decent amount of women in your life.
Absolutely.
That are just
I have
awesome.
to, because what I realized, and every relapse I had, I learned something new, So like one time I finally had a sponsor and I was taking her suggestions, but I had no one else. And so she had told me, call me every day at 9 p.m. So I called her every day at 9 p.m. And the one night that I was craving and wanted to use and calling her because my ass is falling off, and she didn't answer because she was on vacation, which she's entitled to.
Right, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
I went and used.
Right.
So I always tell people 2 people can be busy at the same time, but 40 people can't.
Right.
There's no limit to who's in my support group, because I need as many people as possible.
Yes.
Because people do. AA gives you a life, sobriety gives you a life, and people get busy, right? And it's not like they might not be available for me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's why I need to branch out. I'm so big on that. Like, you cannot have too much support.
Right.
Yeah.
And I used to tell people, go get 5 phone numbers, even if it feels awkward. They understand. They're at the same meeting with you. They understand what you're there for.
Here's my favorite part about that. People are like, I'm not calling a stranger. And I said, if I gave you 5 numbers of dope men that had dope, you would not even question, is it awkward? You would be dialing immediately.
Yeah, I got your number from Allie. That's
it. Right. Hey, hook me up. That's it. Come on. Right. And so again, using that same philosophy of like bringing that into recovery, right? If here's 5 people with dope, you're going to call them. You're not going to ask questions. You're just going to call and say, hey, help me get dope, right? Here's 5 numbers of people with a solution.
Yes.
Call them and say, help me. That's it. Yeah. Right? That's all we have to do.
It doesn't have to be a long conversation either, because everybody's so introverted nowadays.
Yeah.
You know? They're like and I get it. They're like,
I think COVID messed us all up. And I really feel for the people that were getting sober like during COVID, because again, if the opposite of addiction is connection, and then during COVID, we were disconnected, right?
Yeah. When they closed all the clubhouses, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I get it. Like, but then they just stayed closed for so long, though. That was the crazy part.
Right. So I really do feel for people who they were trying to get sober on Zoom, and, you know, like doing all these things over the phone. And I'm like, God, I really feel for them, you know, because again, like it is literally cut off our source. You know, our source is each other. Our source is that connection. And all of a sudden it was ripped away from us. So I agree with you. I think a lot of us have become introverted because of that. Yeah. You know, we talked about the overstimulation in the world.
So much going on. So much information coming at you all day. You know?
Yeah, don't even get me started on that. I'm like, I went off to one of my friends who's a therapist the other day, and I'm like, we're not meant to live like this. We're not meant to be, you know, available 24/7 and have constant dopamine, right? Like notifications, comments, like DMs, blah, blah, blah. It's so much, right?
Yeah, that and on top of work and on top of being a spouse or school or everything. It's just, it really feels like a cog in a machine sometimes.
Exactly.
Like we're just doing it every day. Like when I'm dealing with my homeless clients, sometimes I'm like, dude, I get it. You know, I get not wanting to do this because it is a nightmare. Right. Maybe we can find a happy medium where you're not outside, but I don't not understand.
Of course.
Because it feels, especially for somebody who might have like, you know, some kind of disability or whatever their story is, to have to live here now with how expensive everything is, and just the world's a difficult place right now.
And I think acknowledging that is good because it validates people's feelings. I'll speak for myself. My feelings, you know, like it's okay. I'm overwhelmed. It's okay. I'm having a hard time. It's okay. You know, I'm acknowledging my anxiety. I'm acknowledging, you know, that maybe burnout or something. And so then that, again, back to recovery is like me, I have to take action. Once I'm aware of like I'm having those feelings, then I have to take action. And I know you mentioned travel and surfing, and that's just for me. I mean, 31 years old, I realized that I love surfing. Yeah. And I'm not even very good at it.
How does that even happen?
So I went, and again, just kind of on a journey, and that's what I love. Like, that's kind of from a 12-step program, is like they say God could, and what if he were sought? So seek him, right? And so I took that as like this adventure of like, let me go, because I really struggled with like, I didn't grow up with religion. My mom's a scientist. I didn't know. I still to this day don't know anything about the Bible.
Yeah,
I'd be
probably better that way sometimes. I think that sometimes.
Well, they say that. It's almost harder to grow up with like a condemning God and then come in and try to transform it to a loving God versus having nothing at all. Right. So I almost had this blank canvas. And I can look at that as terrifying or exciting. And I think so much of this is perspective, you know? So I chose to look at that as exciting. And I went on this journey. I was going to yoga, which that's part of my recovery too. Yoga and meditation, right?
I love it.
And this teacher was like, hey, we're doing a yoga retreat in Costa Rica. It's like not that expensive. That's a plug for you for traveling.
Cool.
They have retreats everywhere, and it's always like a combined price.
Right.
I'm telling, it was like $1,000 to go for a week, have a place to stay, transportation to the airport, 3 organic meals a day, yoga twice a day. It was incredible. And
that sounds so awesome.
Yeah, I picked up a surfboard there I had tried to surf in Hawaii before, and here we go with a negative self-talk, right? I knew I loved the ocean. I knew I loved surfing culture, but I told myself, "Oh, you're too fat. You don't look like a surfer, so you can't be a surfer."
Right.
Right. And so I go to Costa Rica and I stand up on my first wave and I said, fuck this. Fuck everything that I'm telling myself. Fuck all the negativity. I came home, I bought a board, and I hit the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now how often do you go? How often do you practice?
Whenever there's waves, girl.
Yeah. How often is that here?
This summer was pretty flat. We had a flat spell for like 2 months, which was awful. But now it's picking up again.
Yes.
So that's exciting. So yeah, I've been a swimmer my whole life. I was captain of my swim team. And that's like kind of part of my story too. And how I differentiated myself for so long, because I met so many people who had traumatic childhoods and were abused and their parents were addicts. And I truly sympathize with those people, because I'm like, oh, of course you're going to become an addict. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you saw. That's all you know. That's all you know how to cope. That is not, my story is the opposite.
Really?
I come from a loving home, and my parents traveled, and I was an only child. I was given everything I wanted. Right. And I can identify now that there wasn't a lot of like emotional availability. And I actually just this year realized how much I was alone as a child. And I think I just didn't learn how to like cope with emotions. I was never given coping skills. And not to say that as a cop out, but just to say, you know, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. Right. You know, it doesn't matter what happened to you as a child. And I harped on that for so long. Why am I an addict? Why is this happening to me? And a therapist finally said to me, like, it doesn't matter why.
What does it matter?
It matters that you know that you are, and what are you going to do about it? Right? And so it's finally, I just moved on from that.
Taking the responsibility for your recovery.
Exactly.
Because that's a big thing, right? It's like, all right, we might not be responsible for the fact that we have a substance use disorder or whatever it is, but it is our responsibility to not live like an asshole for the rest of our lives.
Take action. Do something about it. Surrender to change. Right. You know? And I think, too, we overcomplicate everything, right? I did that for a long time. Why do these steps work? Why, you know, we read how it works, but why does it work? And I still don't know why it works, so, you know. But I think just surrendering and just simplifying everything.
Were you did you go to a sober living house when you got out of treatment?
Yep, I lived in a sober living. And again, that was a suggestion by the treatment center. They sent me to this structured sober living. Nice. I lived there for 8 months.
Wow.
I finally said to my sponsor, like, hey, I think I'm ready to like move on. And again, just a testament to the opportunities that present itself when you're doing the right thing. You know, my first form of a higher power was karma, because I realized when I acted shitty things would happen to me, you know? And when I acted good, good things would happen to me.
Totally.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to stay focused on my sobriety and, you know, my recovery, and take all the suggestions from the halfway house in spite of wanting to. Right. That's an important part too. It's like, I thought I was supposed to want to go to meetings and want to get a job and want to ride a bicycle you know what I mean?
That's a great point.
Right. An old timer said to me, he said, you've done what you've wanted for 24 years. Now it's time for you to do what you need to do. Yes. And that was a wake up call for me too. So finally 8 months, I said, I'm ready to move out of this halfway house. Like, I'm ready to move to the next step. And she said, well, just pray and like ask the universe to present to you a new opportunity. And I'm not joking you, that week, a brand new women's 3-quarter house opened. And I was one of the first people in that house. Again, just like weird opportunities like that would continuously pop up. And to me, that's just such a testament to sobriety. And I don't know if it's God or the universe or karma. And once again, who cares? Right. Who cares what it's called? Yeah. You know, I use the term God just as a form of communication so people know what I'm talking about. Simple. Exactly. So I lived in that 3-quarter house for another 8 months. And I always say too, like my addiction was progressive in the sense that it continued to get worse and worse and worse, right? And my recovery is also progressive in the sense that it just continues to get better and better and better, right? So it's on the other spectrum. Totally. Of it just keeps, you know.
And as you were saying, it's hard in the beginning. My first year in sobriety was like not easy. I had no car, no ID, no driver's license, no bank account, no job. I had 6 felonies. I was on probation. I was at fucking the Drug Abuse Foundation halfway house with a 6 p.m. curfew, you know? Like, I was like, yeah, I'm all fucked up in the game at the point.
This is not a
I
good
had some
time.
idiot boyfriend who I met in rehab who can't stay sober. I can't go back to my dad's house. It was just like, a mess because while I was doing the things, some of them, I was mainly not picking up.
Right.
You know, and so because that was like my main thing I wasn't doing, I wasn't living a recovery, but I didn't understand.
No,
I had no idea at the time. I was just doing my best to like get through it and like not super fuck everything up.
But that's a piece of advice I got too, which was actually really helpful, is like all you have, the man who picked me up from the hospital, he said, for your first year, all you have to do is not pick up.
Right.
That's it. And I never really understood that part either because I thought I was supposed to be this, recovery saint now and like, be good and never get mad and like, not show character
Never do anything
defects.
bad.
Right.
Well, I've made very big mistakes in recovery.
I tried to fight some girl outside of an AA clubhouse at like 90 days sober, screaming in her face because she walked in with my ex-boyfriend.
Oh, shit.
And don't you know that's my man.
Right.
Who wanted nothing to do with me, right? Nothing to do with me. And I'm trying to screaming at her, fighting. And that's when I realized like sobriety's not always going to be pretty.
No.
And that first year of just not picking up, I think is great advice because I wanted to get high every single day for my first 6 months. And I think that's important to talk about too because I thought I wasn't supposed to want to.
Same.
There's something wrong with me.
1,000%.
Right?
1,000%. I thought of getting high almost every day.
Right. And I didn't hear that in meetings.
Right.
I didn't hear people say that. So then when I'm scared to share that because I think, oh no, something's wrong with me because I'm still wanting to use.
Or they're going to think I'm going to use or something. Yeah.
Right. So then I'm living in secrecy, right? Which is, I cannot live in secrecy and sobriety because I will use every single time. Right. So I love that you had that same, I hate that you went through that pain, but I love that you had that same experience because it just goes to show you, I didn't know, and this is common sense, but I did not know that you could want to get high and not.
Right.
I thought every time I wanted to, I had to.
Right.
Right. And like it dawned on me one day when I got through a craving, I'm like, holy shit. I felt that, I experienced it, I wanted it, and I made it through.
Yeah.
Right? And I think once you do it once, then you're like, okay, now I have the experience that I can get through this. Right? Exactly.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Because when I got to treatment, I thought I was only going to be there for like 2 or 3 months. And when I found out it was a 6-month program, I like fucking lost it. Right. And I was going to AMA that day and they're like, nah. So I was like, all right, I'm going to leave in like 2 months or 2-3 months. But when that 3-month, 90 days came, I go, wow, I still want to get high. I really thought you went there. Like I remember being on house arrest, getting schwizzed, right? Yeah. My best friend was in rehab. She called me and I was like, did they fix you? Yeah. Like, do you still want to do drugs? Are you going to do drugs when you get out? Like she was like, I don't know. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what did they do there to you? I thought they did something to you to make you better.
Yeah, my mom called my first treatment center and asked for her money back because she was like, you did not fix her.
Really?
Yeah. I thought the same thing. You go to rehab and you're good. Yeah. I thought you're cured. It's
Dude, totally not.
Totally not.
Oh my gosh. You got to like really do that stuff on your own time.
Absolutely.
Forever.
And that's what I tell people too. A lot of times treatment is just like a physical removement from the streets. That's it. Right. And I'll tell people, like, especially those people who have been to treatment over and over and over again. I mean, they could teach the groups. They have the knowledge, and I tell them, like, this is just physical separation from the drug. That's it. And for me, I needed that. Like, I had to be physically removed. I could not stop. I could not just, like, jump into a meeting and be like, okay, I'm done. I
don't know how people do it. I think it's great if you can and you have supportive home
My
or something.
sponsor did it, and it blows my mind. I'm like,
really?
Are you sure you're really one of us? I don't know. You know what I mean? But, God bless. And that's the whole thing. Different things work for different people. Sure. And that's why I always just share it from my own experience. From my own experience, I had to be locked up.
Yep.
I had to.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about when you first came in here is like, I was grateful you're on today because you're such like a 12-step person, and then we're going to talk about what else you do now, right? That your recovery has progressed so many years. But there are so many people who recover so many different ways. And I think maybe it's getting better now, but for so many years they were
do
really,
the steps or die.
Yeah,
like that.
right. Yeah, so stigmatized.
Yeah.
Like they did it this way, or
Right.
like, bro, like everyone's just trying to do their
That's
best
it.
to like not die or ruin their lives
Right.
or like hurt their kids or whatever it is.
Right.
Like everyone's just trying.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. I had like an epiphany. I don't know if you want to hear this.
Yeah.
But, so I do know people who like are sober without a 12-step program. And for me, I'm too scared to like not go,
Right.
you know? So like
Yeah,
I do still have a home group. I still sponsor women because I hear so many horror stories of, you know, I have like 7 clients right now who all had like 8 years, 4 years, 7 years and stopped going to meetings, stopped talking to their sponsors, stopped whatever. And I've seen that so much that it's almost like brainwashed me into like, oh no, I still have to go. So I still keep my toe in. But what I realized, the people who are sober without 12-step, right? And this is so corny, but AA symbol is a triangle, right? And on the triangle, on each side, it says unity, service, and recovery. And what I realized is the people that weren't doing AA were still living by those 3 principles.
Right.
They had unity, they had connection, whether it be at the gym, whether it be at church, whether it be at school. They had some type of support group connection of people who were doing the right thing, right? Doesn't necessarily mean sober, but we're just bettering their lives and working on themselves internally, right? And then service, we think about, you know, service at AA, you know, it's like making coffee, sponsoring, but like service could be just service. You're doing service by on this podcast, right?
Right.
You're doing service by holding a door open for an old lady or walking her across the street, right? There's so many forms of service where you can just be a good person to better the world, right?
Yeah.
And then recovery, of course I don't have it in front of me, but one of the definitions of recovery is like regaining possession of something lost, right? And so for me, it's like taking your life back and like working on yourself and becoming the best version of yourself. And again, so I think it's just so interesting. I had this epiphany because I'll be honest, I was one of those people. In
Girl,
my
me
first
too.
couple years, I was like, if you don't get a sponsor, you're going to die.
Yep.
If you don't go to meetings,
Me
you're going
too.
to die. And now it's really opened my eyes to like, there are so many different modalities for recovery.
Yes.
And so many different things work for so many different people. So it's like, who am I to say what's going to work for someone, you know?
Though I think the 12 steps are great, I don't know what I would have done without them because I don't know if I would have been able to make a support group without being like given one.
Exactly.
Like here, just go. All the things are in that room.
Oh, my mom tells
okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah, my mom tells me
Where do I
all
go?
the time how jealous, because she's normal. She claims to never have done a drug in her life.
she claims, mom.
She like got surgery and was on a Dilaudid drip, and she was like, "Oh, I don't like this feeling." And I was like, "Am I adopted? Like, there's no way I'm related to you." But I always say like if everyone in the world worked the 12 steps, can you imagine what an amazing, beautiful world it would be?
So much better.
Right. But my mom is jealous that I have, because I've gone to a meeting in Costa Rica. I've gone to a meeting in Puerto Rico. I've gone to a meeting and you have this instant family all over the world.
Yes.
And my mom's like, I'm so jealous. Like, I have a roofer. I have a doctor. I have a lawyer. I have all these different things because we all help each other out of like that I have found in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know? And that's what's so cool is like, you're right. You're given this family.
These resources.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, you don't know what you're doing. Start going to a meeting every day.
Absolutely.
And eventually you're going to find somebody with a room to rent or that will give you a free week at their halfway house or will give you a job or whatever it is. Like that's where you're going to find those things and the people willing to help you no matter what your situation is.
Absolutely.
That's what we do for each other.
Yeah.
So go to those people.
And that's why I tell people too, like, it's not going to make you worse.
Right.
It's either going to make you the same or make you better.
Yes.
So like, why not give it a shot?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point. I know. I feel so like, you know, obviously I drive a lot of people around. Maybe we're headed to the shelter or a doctor's appointment or whatever we're doing. And, you know, my position now is much different because our goal is not recovery. Right. When in homelessness, everything is housing first.
Right.
So get them housed and then work on the addiction or mental health issues. But you know,
surviving.
Right. We're going to try to, you know, maybe you need a house so you can, or a phone to call the sponsor.
Start
like,
there.
let's start with that. Right. But I feel so bad when we're like driving around and they'll bring up 12 steps, or I'll just try to plant a little recovery seed.
Yeah.
And they will have these awful experiences at 12-step programs.
Yeah, it happens.
And I'm just like, I always tell them, first of all, the people in the program are not perfect. The program's perfect.
Right.
That's the part that matters.
That. Yeah,
Those
exactly.
people are all fucking crazy like you, dude. Like,
They're
duh.
just as sick as
right.
you.
Like,
know?
I get it, but, just that how it shuts people down from ever trying it again. Because when you're in the right frame of mind, I think that you receive things from meetings so differently.
Absolutely.
My first meeting I went to was like a whole kerfuddle, and like I get there, it's like before I ever went to rehab or anything, I'm like on probation forever,
same.
and I'm
I thought it was a cult.
Yeah.
I
was
red
like,
hair.
I want that guy to be my
me.
sponsor. And so I asked this guy, and he's like, no, ask that lady. And I was like, no. I'm not asking that fucking lady to be my sponsor. Right? Like, I just didn't get it. This lady was crying because her sponsor of like 15 years passed away. And I was like, who cares? I didn't understand.
But that's why you have to shop around. You can't base. I actually just had this discussion the other day. My friend with 8 years, he just relapsed. He got disconnected from the program and his higher power, and he identified what he did wrong or whatever, and he's a hardcore AA guy. Mm-hmm. And he was like, 80% of the people in the room suck. Yeah. And he's like, go find your 20%. Right. And don't let those 80% deter you from the 20% that are good. Totally. That's just a random number, but no, it's making the point of like, I could have the same experience at church, like if I go to a church and some guy hits on me and is weird and like makes me super uncomfortable. Yeah. I might not ever go back to that church, but I'm going to try another church.
Right. Or Publix.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one too. Weirdos at Publix. Does that mean I'm never going to Publix again? No, I'm good. I'm going. I love Publix. Like that's such a good point.
But it's funny because you've been mentioning a lot of people who have relapsed, and a lot of them seem to relapse what they call the 7-year hump. So between those 7 and 14 years, there's like always like a gap that you see like on the anniversary boards and all that stuff.
Oh, where I live, we call it the Bermuda Triangle of AA.
Oh, I like that.
People disappear. Just go from 5 to 10. Yeah. Bermuda Triangle of AA people, because that's the thing is like your life gets so good. Mm-hmm. It gets good. It gets full. It gets busy. Right. And what are they? That corny saying? SLIP stands for like sobriety loses its priority. Right. And as corny as it is, like it's true. Yeah.
Totally.
That's why it's so important for me to talk about recovery and be around recovery and like have that in the forefront of my mind on a daily basis, because I will not have anything else. I'm not going surfing high on heroin. Right. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to the beach, right?
Yeah. No, you'll talk about it though every day, which is what I used to do. We should go out on a boat this weekend. Yeah, we're going on a boat. You're right.
Never happens.
Like 12 years later, like, we should do that.
Happens.
It's never gonna happen. Yeah. So so how do you feel like your recovery has evolved over the years? I'm sure like you're doing a meet. I went to a meeting every day for probably 4 years straight, which is just
a lot.
I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I did it, but it was my main priority. Mm-hmm. It was the most important thing in my life. My home group met 4 nights a week, so that was easy.
Jeez,
But
we're in it.
Yeah, I was super in it. Yeah. And then I was like, I got a little turned off by a few things, and like same thing, right? Yeah. So I still sponsor and I still go to a meeting here and there, but I'm not in it like I used to be. Right. I still keep my basics that I have to keep.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened. Your recovery is going to evolve as you evolve, right? And that's the whole point, is to evolve as human beings and people in society. And I got to a point where I was like burnt out in AA. Yeah. I live in Port St. Lucie, which is a really small town, and you hear the same people over and over again. So there'd be days I jump in my car and I drive to Triangle Club, or I drive somewhere else to like see new
Switch
people.
It up.
Right.
Yeah.
I talked about a spiritual journey, right? Mm-hmm. That's why I love traveling. I realize how much of the world is out there.
Oh my God.
And how much
how many states have you been to?
I'm at 34.
Wow.
It is on my bucket list to hit 50.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to get those other 16 in.
What are your top 5 right now?
top 5 states.
Yeah.
Oh, Hawaii's number 1,
Okay.
hands down. I didn't appreciate Alaska when I was younger, but now I can.
You went to Alaska.
Yeah, I got the hard ones out of the way,
Wow.
so that's good. But yeah, I mean, I love Florida.
Yeah.
But I'm biased, you know. I just got back from West Virginia, which was beautiful, but there is nothing to do. And the people are very strange.
Are they?
Yes.
Did you meet the wild and wonderful whites of West Virginia?
I didn't, but I saw replicas of
That
them.
is my favorite
Is it?
documentary to ever
Yeah.
come out. If you guys haven't watched it, check it out. These people are my spirit animal. I always say, either I'm living this life and hopefully like either I want to be like a rich person because you got no choice in South Florida at this point, or I will be a hillbilly in a trailer. I don't care. Those are like the two happiest people.
Why are we so extreme? You know?
I want to
One
be
or
in
the
a
other.
trailer hillbilly with 4 teeth missing or in a mansion.
A
on
mansion
Palm
in
Beach Island.
Malibu. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love New York City. I'm like a typical tourist. I'm just so amazed with the world, you know, because I didn't pay attention to life for so long. And that's how I kind of live my life now is I feel like everyone's like, oh, you travel so much and you do so much. And I say, yeah, like I'm making up for lost time.
Yeah, totally.
Like 11 years of my life, like I was not present. I did not appreciate anything. I wasn't grateful. I lived in that darkness of hating myself and drowning myself with drugs and alcohol. And it's like now I've been given not even a second chance, 107th chance at life. Like I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna
awesome
use it
stuff.
for sure. Yeah.
And even in early recovery, I was surviving for so many years.
Oh yeah.
Traveling was like, yeah, okay, like I need to
No
like
shot.
eat or
Yeah.
like pay my car insurance
Yeah.
or whatever it is, right?
But I travel on a budget.
Yeah?
just
How do you do
everyone
it?
knows.
What's the deal,
I mean,
Allie?
there's really not like too many secrets. I use those like this silly sites of like Priceline or Expedia, and a lot of times you get like package deals. But we'll look like we just ran, and I love my fiance. I'm getting married in
Yes, I
April,
know,
which
I
is
saw
another like miracle. The fact that
Congratulations.
anyone wants to marry me is incredible.
I would believe there's probably a line.
but
But yes, he seems really nice.
yeah, and he's like a travel bug too.
I love that.
So we'll just every night we're on like Priceline, we're looking at flights
Like, where
and
can we go?
Airbnb and Vrbo, and we'll shop around. And he found this resort in the Dominican Republic for $66 a night.
Wow.
And he's like, "You want to go this weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
let's go." You know?
Oh,
so
my God.
literally for like $200, we stayed in this nice resort on the beach,
Oh, my
best
God.
food. It was awesome.
Dude, the Airbnbs and hotels in other countries are so
So
cheap.
cheap.
Like, I
Yeah.
need to get a passport. I know.
Oh,
Don't kill
girl,
me.
you're
I
sleeping
know.
on the
I'm
passport.
so bad.
Oh, you need to do that.
But I was like looking, I'm like, dude, it's like $30 a night to stay in Mexico
Nothing.
or wherever.
Yeah,
Like, it's just so
absolutely.
cheap.
Costa Rica's the
Here,
same thing.
It's like
Yeah.
out of control. These prices
Yeah.
are just like, they seem really high.
Yeah, no, that's what we were talking about for my bachelorette. They're like, let's go to Key West. And one night in Key West, you can stay 5 nights in Puerto Rico.
Right.
In Puerto Rico, you don't need a passport. By the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
So
I was thinking
jump
that
on
the other
that.
day.
There's a few. Yeah. There's Guam.
U.S. Virgin Islands. Oh,
Yeah.
Guam, that's far, huh?
That's like 11-hour flight.
Yeah.
But
what
if
do you
you're-
do with your dogs?
I have a live-in dog sitter.
Stop
She's
it.
gonna kill me for saying that.
Are you kidding me?
So I had a girl move in with me. She was a year sober and looking to move out of halfway, and I had helped her, and I had been through her recovery journey with her. So she's also an only child. So I
Okay.
say I adopted her as my sister. She's my little sister. So I recently moved. I had bought a house when I was 3 years sober, and I pinched every penny. And of course, the market was not what it is now. I pinched every penny for 3 years. I saved up $10,000, and I bought an $185,000 shack by the beach. This
Wow.
house, it was a dump. It
Yeah.
was cute.
It's cute though. I've seen like videos
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I
Like,
thought it was really cute,
but it was
like,
built
yeah.
in 1985. It really hadn't been updated since, but it was mine.
Yeah, totally.
right.
It's all
Like
that
the
matters.
fact that I did that, and I did that out of spite because I was renting a room from a friend in recovery, and I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I'm so tired of like throwing money away on rent. Like I
Right.
want to buy a house." And she was like, "You're 27 years old. Like you can't buy a house. You don't know what you're doing." And I said, okay, watch me.
Really?
Literally,
Mom?
2 months later, called her back, and I said, hey, I'm closing on a house in 30 days, and you're not invited to the housewarming party. You can't come because you doubted me. And it's like, I try to use my character defects for good.
Right.
You know, like I am stubborn.
Right.
So if somebody tells me I can't do something, including sobriety, people would tell me like, Allie, you're hopeless. Like, you're not going to get sober. You're going to die of this disease, And I use that as motivation.
Same.
Like, watch me.
I was like least likely to to in rehab. They were like, everyone was betting because I was the youngest person there.
Yeah.
And
You got sober young.
at 18. And not only was I a baby, I was off the chain, out of control.
I'm sure.
I was like throwing phones at techs and fucking just cursing the world out. They didn't know what to do. They're like, we're gonna send you to prison if you don't fucking stop. And I was like, fucking send me to prison, bitch. Like I was just out of control.
Yeah.
And so it's not surprising that everyone's like, yeah, Allie's like,
no shot.
Not gonna make it at all. But I was like, I'll show you bitches. Like, I'm gonna fucking figure this shit out. Like, you know, and it was really a survival thing because at DAF, I was like, dude, this is already the last house on the block.
Right.
There's no other houses after DAF.
Right.
Like, you're at the shittiest place.
That's the end.
That's it. You know, where else will I go after that?
Right.
And so I felt like it. And they didn't know about sober livings because that was 2008. That was before sober livings
that
was
much
a
around.
thing, really.
Right.
And so I didn't even know that was an opportunity. So I was sleeping on people's couches and just like trying to figure it out.
What a miracle, though.
Girl.
And again, like such a testament to like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going every day. Just like, okay, we're going to do it again today.
That's why I say drag your body until your mind eventually follows.
Yes.
That's what happens.
Yes.
It's so crazy. It's so, God, it's just such
So
a miracle.
you've worked in treatment for a long time.
8 years.
Oh my God, girl.
And I started as an overnight tech, and I didn't even have a dream to like work in, you know, some people are like, oh,
most people don't.
Right. But I do. I have some clients that are like, I want to do what you do one day. And I'm like, please don't. Like, think of something else.
Really a nightmare.
Yeah. But I always, whatever higher power, God, universe has me in this sector, and I'm riding it out until the wheels fall off, you know, as I do have, and me and you talked about that. Me and you have worked together, you know, and we've worked for places who their number one priority wasn't helping. It was financially driven. And that's something I don't want to be a part of. I want to help people that don't have the resources, that don't know where to go. And that's where my passion lies. Like that's where I have turned all of my pain into a purpose. Totally. You know what I mean? And I know you're the exact same. That's why we get along. It's
I know. I love it.
Yeah. So, it's been interesting. It's been a ride. And again, now it's progressive. Started as an overnight tech at $12 an hour. Then I got thrown into the alumni department for $15 an hour. Yeah. And then I got thrown into an admissions job for like $32,000 a year. And then they threw me into a director of alumni position, and that's where I really like found my niche.
Yes, because that's so fun. I always thought like alumni seemed like a cool job.
I had the most fun.
Yeah,
I still like fantasize about it because it's like that. Those times have changed so much that it's not really the same anymore. But yeah, we used to go to Busch Gardens.
Right.
I took like 80 of them to a Kevin Hart stand-up show.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we had such
back in the day, rehab was popping. It was nice when they were making money. I get it. It wasn't always the best, but it was kind of cool.
But to like show people that you can have fun in sobriety, right? Like I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Being from Florida, like you go to a football game, you drink. You go to the beach, you drink. You get on a boat, you drink. You know, like everything was surrounded about drinking. So like thinking about not drinking was like impossible. Yeah. Like how?
Right.
You know, so that was my favorite part of alumni is like really showing people, you know, like how much, again, life is out there. How much of the world is out there. Yes. Like I want to see it all.
Yeah. And I say that even with our clients now, I go, if they knew the world, the life that is possible for them, they might make different choices. Yeah. But for so many years, I mean, many of my clients now, they grew up in just complete poverty. Right. So never in their life have they experienced being out on a nice boat or like hanging out in Palm Beach Island or nice things, right? Being around nice people, doing nice things.
And they have no clue.
They don't know that those opportunities are even available for them. I believe they think, they're out there, just not for me. Yeah. You know, and I always go, it'd be so cool if we could like take them to go do these things just so they could for a minute, feel like a person and be like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I want this. Like, how do I get there? But
Right. It's hard. And that's what, stupid little Oprah quote I always think of is like, do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later.
Right.
That's like the essence of my recovery.
Totally.
You said it that first year. It was like, just show up, just do what I'm told,
Right.
just surrender, just like whatever. And it was miserable, but I am so grateful I went through that to have the life I have today.
Yes.
Yeah. I did another podcast with one of my friends, Jason Sowell, and he titled it after sharing my story of like, never deny yourself the struggle.
Oh, I like
right.
that.
Because that's where I think like my gratitude stems from is like that darkness and how difficult it was. And I always tell my clients, like, it's called growing pains for a reason. Like it is painful to grow, like it is not a good time.
Right. No, yeah, it's not fun. I know. Yeah.
But we do it for the outcome, right? We do it for like the long term. So like that 1 year or 2 years of suffering and having a hard time, I'll never forget. I just remembered my first year, which was so difficult. I picked up my 1 year medallion, and this old timer, Mel, he had like 30 something years. He had these like long chops, and he said, "Congrats on your first year. Now the real work starts." And I lost it. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. And what I realized in my second year, and I'm wondering if you did this too, my second year, I realized that it was never about the drugs or alcohol in the first place.
Right.
It was all about me and my thinking and my brain and
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
So realizing that like I was truly the problem was almost like devastating, because I blamed, no, Mom, it's just the heroin.
Right.
Like if I could just get off the heroin, my life would be fine.
Yes.
Right. But then second year, I realized, oh no, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, totally.
Did you feel the same thing?
Yeah, bro, I was an insane person, even sober. Like, even sober, I was like, yeah, let's break into their house. Like, I don't know what was mentally wrong with me. I think about it now. I'm like, what? Why? And I think a lot of it was like chasing like that excitement.
Yeah.
Like I always like to do something
that
crazy,
dopamine rush,
something fun.
right?
And like, so I was just doing that in all sorts of not great ways.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it really is all my thinking. Because when I started to change my thinking and change the way I react to things, my life changed dramatically.
That's right. Right.
Like I started to make money and to have a stable home and to like find friends who were doing awesome things because I was no longer acting like an insane human being.
Right.
So, and that all came from working my steps diligently,
And like really taking a deep look at yourself.
Yeah, like, okay, wow, I keep doing these things over and over again. Like when my fifth step, wow, I have a lot of like repeat offenses here.
Yeah.
I would say that's a problem, right? Like my anger is a problem or jealousy or whatever it is like a massive thing I need to work on.
Absolutely.
And just having someone who I could trust to tell all those things to kind of help me go through it was, super
That's the key,
important.
finding someone you can trust. But you reminded me too, like it's another corny saying, but like I cannot think my way into good acting. I have to act my way into good thinking, right? Because if my brain is broken, right? And drugs and alcohol were my solution, right? So that's it. As an insane person, I use drugs and alcohol to numb that insanity. Now you've taken away my numbing agent and I'm worse than ever. Right? So it's impossible for me to fix my broken brain with my broken brain. And that's, again, why I need other people, right? I need the people to keep me in check and hold me accountable and call me on my bullshit and point out my character defects. You remind my fourth step. I was, had all these people that I'm mad at and what they did to me. And my sponsor goes, didn't you do that to them too? And I'm like, oh, yeah, actually, I did do those things to them too. You know what I mean? Like really taking a look at my actions. And so again, just the whole just showing up and changing my behavior is eventually what changed my thinking.
Yes.
And I think that's exactly what you just said,
I was telling someone the other day something they had to deal with something that was difficult. And I was like, well, everyone hates like my positivity. I'm like, well, the good news of this situation is you're going to have an amazing opportunity to practice not being the way you've been being. And they're like, Allie, go away. I'm like, I'm just saying, like, but I didn't say it right. I could have said it better in a way that was like, but I was like, you get to like be better.
That's perspective.
Like,
exactly.
It's all practice.
Exactly.
It is practice. Not getting high is a practice.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, we're going to practice not acting on that thought.
Right.
We're going to practice waking up. We're going to practice making our bed so long that practice becomes routine.
Absolutely.
And then it's just super normal and it's so much easier.
Right.
Yeah.
I love like the science behind that and like the neural pathways in our brain, right? So neural pathways can't be created nor destroyed, right? So it's my neural pathway of my addiction. When I kept feeding it drugs and feeding it drugs and feeding it drugs, and my brain is now in the habit of something bad happens, drugs. Something good happens, drinking. Something good, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I've taught my brain that, right?
Yes.
So now in recovery, I have to strengthen that recovery neural pathway. And I think that's why we never become cured, because that addiction neural pathway is always going to be with me.
Right.
It's just if it's lit up or being used or whatever, right? So the goal was to like dim that. I don't even know if this is making any sense.
I like it.
Yeah. But the neural pathway of recovery has to be strengthened daily. Right. And that's when that one is stronger than my addiction neural pathway. I always relate it to remember the old like Looney Tunes cartoons, and they had like an angel and a devil on their shoulder. I literally view my brain as that. Okay. I have an angel in my head that tells me the glass is half full and this is a great opportunity to practice patience. And, life is good today. And then I have the devil on my shoulder.
Fuck this, run.
You suck. Everyone hates you.
Yes.
Don't fucking leave your house. Don't post this selfie because you look ridiculous.
Right.
Like just the silliest things, right? And so for me, it was helpful to differentiate the two, of what is that light, that voice of light and that voice of darkness, because they both still coexist within me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you work at, what is it, Tampa Coalition?
Yeah, so Coalition Recovery, I actually work for a company called ARH. So we own a facility in Tampa called Coalition. We have Little Creek in the Poconos, Pennsylvania.
Oh, cool.
I love
Fun.
Pennsylvania.
I love the Poconos.
I don't know if I actually love Pennsylvania, but my best friends live there. So we
could do without parts of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Like Pittsburgh.
Right, and then we have two facilities in West Virginia as well. That's why I was up there. Harmony Ridge.
Right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. We just opened in Barbersville, and then we have the Walker location as well. And all of those locations, we take state insurance.
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure you guys take Medicaid,
We
right?
do.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's so awesome.
That's why I took this job last year, because I really didn't know when I was working in the private treatment sector. I didn't know when people called me with Medicaid, I'd give them the SAMHSA number.
Right.
I would, point them to 211. I didn't know that there was resources available. And so when I found this position, or I was called by, this gentleman who I really, really look up to, and he's incredible. I'm so happy with my boss. He's such a good leader. And having good leadership is like so important.
Especially in the treatment industry.
Oh my, it's hard to find,
Yeah.
right? So I found this guy, and he's incredible, and he does positive reinforcement, and he's so intelligent, and he tells me, how would you like to represent a Medicaid facility in your hometown of where you use.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
My heart melted immediately.
Yeah.
I'm like,
totally.
this is
love
it.
that.
Right. This is it. So
that is so awesome. Man, you're right. Back in the day, even a couple years ago, I didn't know any place that took Medicaid.
Right.
Now it's becoming a lot more popular.
Thank God.
I think they don't have a choice. If they want to continue to make any money, they have to be able to take everybody they can. But this position I have, being able to learn all these resources in Palm Beach County that I had no clue this stuff was available. My boss would be like, well, why didn't you just do this? I'm like, bitch, nobody knows
Nobody
about that.
knew.
Nobody knows that, it's over now, but they paid $100 million of people rent.
Wow.
Who do I know that knew that? Nobody. So there's just all this stuff out there.
Somebody had told me about a church up in Stewart and they paid my first rent to get into Halfway.
Right.
I never knew anything about that.
Totally.
There's so many resources out there, and that's why I love, being able to do what we do and find those resources and get them to people. It's incredible, because I think a lot of times people don't want to look for it, you know? So it's like,
I'm like, did you go online to look? Or like, you're just bothering me to do it for you? Like, that's so crazy to me. I'll do it. If you really need me to do it, like, that's fine. I'm gonna look it up for you. But like, use Google, dude.
Right.
What is it? Like freerehab.org.
Oh yeah.
That was a good one.
Last
yeah.
night. Yeah.
Because at least you can see like every state. Because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what they're doing in Nebraska.
Literally.
I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
I have no idea what y'all got going on up there.
That's what makes it's difficult. You know, when you hit your head against the wall, many a times I do.
Right.
But it's, you know, when you get to see those people recover and actually get their lives back and go from homelessness to like in their own place and getting their kids back. It's like, that's what makes it all worth it.
Such a blessing.
Yeah.
Totally.
So cool.
But I have this one girl and she's just someone I have not been able, I mean, I've given her every resource. She's looked up every resource. We've both been just like diving in, but she can't get any help. She was using fentanyl and then her fentanyl started getting cut with xylazine. She didn't know. And I guess she had like some heart issues. So she's been to every place that could detox her. They keep exiting her because of her heart. They like won't follow through with the detox process. They won't let her on methadone because of her heart condition. So she's literally stuck like,
what do I do?
Just on tranq. And she's reaching out to doctors in Pennsylvania, just like seeing like, does anybody know anything I can do? Like I heard ketamine works. Can I do that? Like what do I do?
Anything.
And I've just felt so bad for her because the reality is even though the drugs are changing, these rehab centers really lag behind when it comes to being able to treat these people.
Right, especially on the medical portion.
Right,
they're not
in detox.
Things are changing so quickly that it's like we can't even keep up.
Right.
It's so difficult.
Like the ASU clinic right here, you used to open in like 2019, but used to be able to drop somebody off and they would go get a couple days in there and get put on subs or whatever they wanted to do.
Right.
But now you spend less than 24 hours there, but they're not ready to take medication for days because of the half-life right now.
That's what I heard. I'm like,
so
thank
it's like,
God.
what's the point of even having that clinic? I think they've basically closed it, but yeah.
Jeez. But yeah, that's, I'm finding out, thank God we got clean before fentanyl was a thing. Because I'm hearing you have to wait like 72 hours before you take medication. I'm like, I don't know how these people are making it.
I don't know.
It's insane.
I feel terrible
Awful.
for them. Yeah, because
and then you take it too early, you go into precip. I've heard so many of those horror stories.
Yep.
It's so rough. That's again just a reminder that sober is just
We're
better.
so lucky.
Yeah, sober is just better and easier. As we were talking about how difficult it is that first year, it is not more difficult than precipitated withdrawals.
Right. Or finding money every day and then finding drugs and then finding a place to do it because your parents hate you and you know.
Like it's truly the easier, softer way is to get sober.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And what they say, if you hate it, you can always go back.
That's true.
Always
too.
go back.
Right. It's always,
you don't have
drugs
to
aren't
stay
going
sober.
nowhere. Yeah.
You know, you can make that choice when the time comes. But hang out for like a year and see what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Allie, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thanks so much. I love hanging with you and talk. We could talk forever.
I know. You should. If you're ever in West Palm, you can stop by my office.
Awesome.
We can do some outreach together and go have some fun.
Yeah.
Maybe like when it's not 1,000 degrees and like humid.
I know. Where's that cold front?
Bro.
I'm ready for it.
I don't even know. I'm like,
Still
it's
sweating.
October. Is it October? I'm like, it is so hot outside. I thought I was going to get steamed to like a dumpling on my way here. I was like, this is insane.
Like a dumpling.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
But
Thanks
thank you
again for
so
having
much.
me.
Thanks for
Thank you for
coming
everything
on.
you do.
Yeah,
You're such an incredible
I
person. I'm
appreciate
so
that.
grateful to have people like you in my life. So
Thank you. And I love you guys so much. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I want to do, oh God, I should have said this in the beginning, but I want to give away 2 t-shirts.
Nice.
So if you comment down below, whatever you want, you can say how beautiful Allie is or this Allie is or whatever, something that you liked or one of her corny sayings
corny
that's your
sayings.
favorite. And then I'll put you all like in the thing that I did before with the spinny wheel. And then I'll pick you guys and I'll send you out a t-shirt. So I love you all so much. Bye.